Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Reveal Report, live on our Friday as we kick off the weekend the right way with you. Joining us for the number one, I believe, occultic show online as we dive into it and discuss certain things that they don't really teach you anywhere else, not in mainstream media, of course, not in school. And we appreciate everyone calling and messaging us, emailing and watching the Reveal Report. People from all over the world. It's such an incredible feeling to have messages from South Africa, Japan, Russia, even China, the US, Canada, all over the world. So it's amazing. It's a privilege and it feels so good. The UK as well. Thank you for being here. Everyone from all over the world. You know, the one thing we have in common is the thing that the Lord gives us all, and that's discernment. You're given discernment to judge, to look through, to funnel through all the information, to find out what's true, what feels good in your heart, and what to understand. So we appreciate you guys being here, and we thank you so much as we kick off the weekend. Secret societies. That's the topic. It's an interesting topic. We're going to touch on a few, and we appreciate you guys being here because, man, we got a lot of stuff to discuss. And yes, Stacy, nearly 40,000. We're just a couple of hundred people away, all natural. Of course, no ads or anything like that. And man, incredible. 40,000 awake people. The funny thing is, some of my videos have reached millions and millions of views. I mean, millions. People will take clips and share it on Facebook and so forth. And millions. But they don't come and subscribe, unfortunately. So if you do take a piece of this video to use it for your, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, by all means, share what we have. But all I ask is to at least give credit to the Reveal Report. That's it. Like that button, subscribe, and thanks for joining us. Let me bring on my co-host, Miss Jessie Czebotar. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, good, George. Good to be here.
Well, I want to kick off with some good news because last week we said that we were going to make an announcement today, officially, and give people details about being a part of the Reveal Report live because we're going on tour, Jessie. And our first stop, which is confirmed, is Orlando, Florida. So we're going to be in Orlando, everybody, and it's going to be on Friday, May 12th. And Saturday, May 13th. So mark your calendars. It's going to be Saturday, May 12th. Friday, May 12th, Saturday, May 13th. And for those who've never been, just give you a little tidbit on this. It's going to be pretty amazing because on the Friday, what we do is we go 1 hour right here on YouTube. So if you can't make it, you'll still get to see an hour on YouTube. And then we go off air and we really get into a Q&A. And it's a lot of fun, the things we talk about. The Saturday, we have a VIP ticket during the day for those who want to join us. But in the evening, Jessie, we get into politics. Stuff we never get to talk about here on YouTube because we'd get in trouble. We'd be shadow banned. So we're going to get to talk about politics, answer questions. It's going to be great. But Jessie, we've been working on a special guest to be a part of this. The first time.
Yeah.
The first time me and you said we're going to bring one more, the trio. And in the past year and a half or so, this individual has really graced us with his knowledge, his information. And me and just love having him on. And he's an author and many of you love him as well. So without further ado, I know if I had a drum roll, I'd play the drum roll. But joining us in Orlando, May 12th and 13th, Gary Wayne, ladies.
I love this.
Oh,
man. Love it.
Gary Wayne from the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. I mean, he is going to be there. Let me just fix his camera a little bit here. He's going to be there, and it's going to be us three. We're going to get into a lot of things happening on May 12th. May 13th. The location is confirmed, and I'll share that everybody. It's the same location we've had for the past few years, which is the Springfield. This thing is incredible. It's a beautiful estate, beautiful outdoors. It's got really nice pool. It's got a restaurant. There's a ballroom. So it's the Springfield Suites Inn. And we get discounted rates on hotel rooms for those that want to join us for those 2 days. It's the weekend of a retreat, and it's going to be absolutely incredible at the Springfield Inn Suites, Orlando, May 12th, May 13th. Jessie Czebotar, George Iceman, and Gary Wayne. Thoughts, Jessie?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. We have such great discussions with Gary, but put that on top of our special, VIP, as well as the Saturday when we're talking politics, and it's going to be hot, George.
Loving it. Very excited. Tickets go on sale Monday. More details Monday. Monday. Me and Jessie will post and share the link. You could get tickets and be a part of it. May 12th, May 13th, the Reveal Report Weekend Retreat. And we give it a name. It's a tour name. We're going to have tour t-shirts. All right. I think everyone's going to love the tour. Do you remember the tour name, Jessie, that we gave you?
Oh, the new one or?
Yes, the new one.
I don't.
It's the Redemption Tour.
Oh, that's right.
So it's the Redemption Tour. That means there's going to be a lot of prayer going on, everybody. It's going to be amazing time, a lot of prayer, a lot of healing. So the Redemption Tour, Orlando, May 12th and 13th. Be a part of it. Details and tickets will be released on Monday. We want to see you in Orlando. All right, let's get into it. The Illuminati, secret societies, secret groups. Do they exist? Well, yes, of course they exist. And there's many of them. But I'm going to begin by playing a video, Jessie. And this video is a particular group. And this group, and the reason, it's so perfect in timing. Today is the 17th of March, March 17th. But this group specifically has a special number. And that's 322. This particular secret society is called Skull and Bones. Some of you may have heard of them. And if you haven't, well, I'm going to play a little video so you can understand some of the people that were a part of Skull and Bones. So turn up your volume, and here it is. Skull and Bones, Yale University. This group is very interesting, and they've had presidents in the White House. George Bush, of course, senior, junior. And this group is quite incredible and quite powerful. We bring it up because sometimes in the occult, Jessie, let's touch on this. Dates are important. Mm-hmm. Now, for whatever reason, they like to show their power, and sometimes they do things on a particular date. So it's important that you understand that. Well, coming up is going to be 3/22, March 22nd next week. And sometimes they'll try to show their power and strength that they may have by doing something on that particular day, which would be March 22nd. Again, Skull and Bones, that date is 3/22. Great meaning, Jessie. What do you have to say about the Skull and Bones before we tap into it even longer?
Yeah, it's interesting how many high-profile people we find in politics who are involved in that, or even those who are heads of, universities, part of organizations like Bilderbergs, things like that. But a lot of people are involved in it.
Here's a picture of them. I use this in our trailer, in our opening. The clock, of course. There it is. There's the skull. Now, for those who don't know, there's a rumor. This is just a rumor of their main headquarters having you to do a ritual with a skull. So it's called Skull and Bones, but there was an actual skull. Now, again, I cannot confirm this, but this is the inside skinny. And the skull that you must be conducting a ritual with in some sort, or when you're being initiated, is someone of quite fame in history. Do you know who that person is, Jesse?
Not that particular one.
You may have heard of Geronimo, a very famous.
Okay. Very famous, yes.
Yes, one of the natives who stood the ground in fighting in war. And the rumor is that apparently that particular native, and I hope from my information that I collected, that was the gentleman's skull that they have acquired, that they have with them. Great power and strength. There's been movies made about Skull and Bones. And in fact, Jesse, both candidates, when they ran for presidency, were questioned about this. And if you didn't see this, let me play a clip. This is a clip of John Kerry, and he's questioned about it. Take a look.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it.
And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for joining us. And we'll be right back.
Interesting that he used that word manifest.
I mean, in magic, we know about that. We could touch on that. You want to touch on
Right.
that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you call when you use magic to bring something forth. Conjure or is another word for it. So very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, that same host interviewed Bush, and let's hear what Bush has to say. Interesting what he says at the end, and I'll get your take on it. So take a listen. This is George Bush being interviewed.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee, and but look, I look
Are
forward.
you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
Listen to what he said. I'm not going to lose, with confidence. He knew. In fact, he won.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, Jesse?
You know, that goes back to the manifesting. They use magic in order to make outcomes turn out the way they desire it to turn out.
Yeah. Now, the word is, Jesse, that actual host passed away right after that.
Interesting.
And I mean, there's conspiracies that he was assassinated or killed or so forth. But the point is, after that, he passed away. Interesting. They didn't want it to be so in the forefront. But in today's world, in today's society, we have movies, video games, we have card games, we have TV shows, we have musicians, actors, politics, all talking about secret groups, secret societies. When we talked about this, Jesse, many, many years ago, people looked at us like we were insane. Now it's public. Now they want a one new world order, a one world government that only a selected few can control and dictate to us how to live. But these secret societies, they've been around for a very, very long time. So I think we should go back just a little bit and let's touch on the first one, or one of the first ones that everyone might know, and that's the Knights Templar. For For those who don't know about the Knights Templar, it was a large organization of devoted Christians during the medieval era who carried out an important mission to protect European travelers visiting sites in the Holy Land while also carrying out military operations. A wealthy, powerful, and mysterious order that has fascinated historians and public for centuries. Tales of the Knights Templar, their financial and banking, their military powers, and their work on behalf of Christianity during the Crusades still circulate throughout modern culture. That is the Knights Templar. But let's talk about when they were captured, Jesse. Let's talk about when some of them were tortured by the Pope and his people, and they confessed to not actually worshiping Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, the God Almighty. They've confessed by doing rituals, and I could go into detail, but all I can say is one of the rituals they would do is they would have the headmaster, and they would all take turns on their knees, bowing and kissing his butt. That actually happened.
It actually did happen.
Now, they're very notorious for the banking system and loaning and so forth. They really revolutionized that. And it's interesting in the occult because they say they had direct communication.
With who?
With spiritual beings that gave them direction on how to do the accounting, the banking, how to put people in debt, how to lend them money. And of course, this even goes back prior to that. But they specifically, there's been confessions to this. Thoughts on that, Jesse? The Knights Templar, the banking system, and them communicating with other beings.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's proven that they do communicate with other beings, particularly with Baphomet and Thoth, are two of them. You know, they build altars underneath areas where they worship, which could be lodges or it could be even Catholic churches, George. It's interesting that you mentioned the Pope because they are considered one of the military branches for the Vatican. So all of that gets very, very interesting as you look more into it.
And these Knight Templars, folks, I mean, let's look at their logo one more time because it surfaces again. There's their logo, the Knights Templar.
Right, which we see on, what else do we see that same logo
Right
on?
here, Jesse. Let me bring it up for you. That's another completely different group for those who don't know. That, ladies and gentlemen, are the Knights of Malta, one of the most peculiar organizations in the world. They actually marked their 1900th birthday last month in February. They did a huge mass in the Basilica with an audience, and the Pope Benedict was there himself as a member of the one-time chivalrous order. That guy was actually a member. That's what it says. And the Knights of Malta, ladies and gentlemen, very interesting, kind of a military troop, kind of a police type of format to answer to those very high up. Just maybe touch on that for everybody watching.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, Knights of Malta, Knights of Garter are all still part of the Knights Templars. I think it's just higher orders. You're going to have Malta and Garter are higher up than the Templars themselves. And it has to do with their authority, where, you know, are they more at a quadrant authority level or are they a regional authority? But we know many, you know, high level people as we start talking about Malta. We have people who are royals in the UK who are connected to those groups. Yeah,
Yeah.
George, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're seeing it come out plainly, huh?
Everyone needs to open their eyes because if you think secret societies are there to help you, they're not. They conduct their business in secret, behind closed doors. They try to infiltrate. This is a fact. Business, politics, food, agriculture, sports, entertainment, clothing, the cars, every aspect of life that you could imagine, they try to infiltrate. But there's so many of them. There are more than one or two secret societies. I mean, if you want to get into the dragon families of the Rothschild, I mean, there's the blue dragon out of the UK. There's the red dragon. And this is all broken up. There's so many different names for so many different groups. And when you belong to these groups, you're sworn to secrecy. Now, I have a tale on this, Jesse. I have a take on this. And I believe that one of the main reasons that you are sworn to secrecy, besides protecting, okay, is like the army. You're basically a soldier doing what you're told. And you're taught secrecy. You're taught to take orders. You're taught to do rituals. You're taught to do these things. Why? So when the time comes, if you graduate, if you're inaugurated to a higher position, they can trust you to do what you're told. And I tried to say that to those on the lower level that are Freemason. They go, no, George, it's perfectly all right. It's not perfectly all right. There are former Satanists that testify that were Masons that talk about sex magic, that talk about who the real God, not the G that you see in their logo, really is. And since we're on that, they're even selling T-shirts now, Jesse.
They do. Absolutely. With all their symbols and everything. And
they got a lot of symbols here, Jesse.
I'm glad you brought up the sex magic. Even in their books, their literature by Manly P. Hall, there's a lot of that in there.
And the sex magic, of course, Jesse, I'm going to get your take on this. Very important is not necessarily the sex magic you might think, just regular. These people are diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying all Masons are. There might be a few watching right now. They don't even know. But the higher up you go, and for you who think, by the way, that there's only 33 degrees.
We both know.
Guys, you know what? I'm going to divulge a little something here. I had a good friend when I was dabbling occultically. I had a few that were Masons, Jesse. And it's a quite a brotherhood. And when we'd go places, he'd have a hat, a baseball cap with his Freemason shenanigans logo, lodge, whatever he's got on it. And if we would park illegally, he would leave his cap, for those who knew, in the windshield thing there, dashboard. So if any cop or anyone came, they would see who he was, where he was from, possibly leave him alone. I could testify that the times that I've seen him do that, we've never got a ticket.
Interesting.
Now, I'm not saying that works for everybody. I'm just saying that's what I experienced being with him.
Right.
So they take advantage of all their power. Again, how interesting. Government workers, police, military, they try to indoctrinate you in early, fire departments, politicians. One big secret club that you're not in. I attended a meeting. I talked to some of them. I was friends with many of them to see both aspects of it. And it was not for me, personally, not for me. But let's show you a picture inside the lodge. And Jesse, maybe you could do one of your little decodes and help people understand what they're seeing here. So here is the lodge. Look at, there's two pillars, Jesse.
Yeah.
Let's get into the pillars and the colors of the squares on the floor, please.
Yeah. So the squares on the floor, that actually is what they consider a sacred space. Underneath it, there usually is a chamber, which will be the chamber of reflection. Interestingly enough, George, there's no stairs or doorways into that chamber. So there's only one way for them to get into there. And in the chamber, there's a desk, and on that desk, there is a skull, which they do, claim is the skull, the same skull as the one you mentioned for Skull and Bones.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see the two pillars, and there's kind of dual meaning in that, because really what it represents are the Baal and the Ashtaroth poles that were used in the Canaanite Babylonian cultures for, um, worship of Baal and Ashtaroth. But they call them like Boaz and Joachim or Jokin, whatever they call them. And then in the back there, as you go up onto their altar, they believe that, is the representative of the eye, the all-seeing eye, the eye of providence.
Yeah.
Um, and, who are they really worshiping with all that? They're going to be worshiping Lucifer. And kind of in the middle there, you see, on all their ritual sacred ground, they're going to put 3 particular items. They've got the table, which is also called the easel. They will always have the great book on it. And then they'll have the 3 great lights, which you see kind of looking like a candle stand there.
Yeah. Now, Jesse, if you notice the colors of this, we have blue, we
And
have yellow. Yes. What do you think that represents before we get into it?
It's interesting because those are the same colors to a very prominent country right now, where there's a lot going on.
Correct. It's also the prominent colors of one of the biggest corporations on the planet called Walmart.
Yeah.
IKEA. This thing is specific for a reason. And everything here is symbolism. It's all about symbolism. And for those that are new, watching and learning about this, it's important that you understand that those on the lower levels may not know this type of information, may mean well, but in fact, as you move up, you're going to learn a lot about this order. So if you were to ask me, George, should I join? Then my answer to you is no, absolutely not. Never join any secret orders, take any secret oaths, do any rituals, because that's not what the Lord intended. And if the Lord intended that, then there would be secret meetings, secret groups. In fact, let's talk briefly about the folklore of the symbol that represented Christians for a very long time, which was the fish. There's many different stories for those who don't know that are watching about the fish. Some say because it associates because they're fisher of men. In fact, others say that the story goes back because of the persecution of Christians. They weren't able to communicate with one another without being tormented, captured, and killed. So when they would meet one another, they would draw a line in the sand. And if you came up to them and seen that line and finished it with your stick, turning it into a fish, then they knew you were a follower of Jesus Christ. So the fish had semblance. That's the symbol. But it wasn't supposed to be secret, right, Jesse? It was just to protect them from being persecuted. There was no plans of world domination or infiltration or captivation. None of that. Just love, glorifying God Almighty, giving him thanks and praise, and treating your neighbor the way you treat your family member. I mean, it's pretty simple and clean, the way Jesus teaches. But these orders have other visions, other ideas for power, control, and money. And it's been over 3,000 years that many of them had this power, but it has now fallen and been taken away. We'll get into that a little bit more at the retreat. But I wanted to touch on these certain secret societies. And one of them that we still haven't touched on, Jesse, is this one. Very famous. Do you know what that is, Jesse?
That is Bohemian Grove.
That's
and
correct.
The owl.
You got it. That is the Bohemian Grove and the owl representing Moloch. And people ask me, George, did they actually do rituals? Well, of course they did rituals. Here's a picture of one. That's an actual picture of Bohemian Grove. There's a photo on your left bottom. If you can check, that's a demon. There he is laying down, the head priest with his robe, saying a prayer. Candles are key. Candles are key. Yeah. Even on the lower levels of magic. That's where I started. Candles are key, folks. It's a lot that goes on. One of the beginnings. I remember, Jesse, it's funny. I'll tell you this, not to teach anybody. Some guy asked me long time ago when I was really involved in the occult. give me a tip. Give me some advice on magic, George. And I think one of the things I think what I said to him is, learn about fire. Learn about fire. Like, he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's the first hint you got to learn, number one.
Right.
Basically, I told him that. But it's very complicated, and there's a lot to it. And there's a
Well,
video.
it's interesting. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting that you said that because they always put the 4 candles, but they'll do 3 or 4. But what's interesting is that they never light, they'll leave one unlit. But maybe
Yes,
that's a better way to put it. They'll light, several of them, but leave one undone. And that's so that when the spirit comes, the spirit, or if they have another individual joining in the spirit, they're supposed to light that candle. And that's how they know there's another presence there.
correct. Yeah. And this is the entrance to it, Jesse. There's the owl. Moloch has a few other names as well. It keeps changing every, I don't know, 100 years or something, Jesse. They keep changing who it is, the spirit. But now the wording here, it says, weaving come, spiders not here. That's their wording on that sign when you arrive at Bohemian.
I think you would read it straight across, George. Weaving
Weaving
spiders come
not.
not
Yes,
here.
sorry. Yes, weaving spiders come not here. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the sign at the front. But here's something you may have not known. Did you know that Bohemian Grove actually had another club, a restaurant? They actually have a
did.
restaurant, Jesse, where they can meet up, these elites, to have their expensive dinners and their meetings to talk about how they think they're going to run the world. But it's a new time, and I think the Lord has had enough. He's had his fill. And there's a lot of power being taken away from these individuals. One of the biggest videos that broke out a few years ago came from someone you may have heard. Not many may agree with his antics and what he has to say, but he was the first one to break the story of Bohemian Grove. His name was Alex Jones. And I do have to credit him for sneaking in to Bohemian Grove. And I got a video I'd like to share with everybody where he does sneak in. He talks a little bit about Bohemian Grove. I mean, hats off to him for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that takes a lot to get past everything to get in there.
Take a look at this.
The Grove is dominated by Republicans, the supposed party of Christian conservative family values. But the Grove has its share of high-powered Democrats as well. It's also important to note that the Grove itself was founded in 1872 by West Coast journalists, and that the National Press Club adopted the iconography of the Grove for its Great Seal. There are 3 major icons used in the cremation of care ritual. Moloch, the owl idol, the curved staff carried by the high priest, and the eternal flame lamp, the Arabian-style lamp, which the priest uses to ignite his torch, which he then uses to burn the human effigy care. Here are video stills of the effigy after it has been burned on the altar in the morning. Many researchers of the global elite believe that real sacrifices are going on at the Grove. When I filmed the ceremony in 2000, I saw no evidence of this. It looked like an effigy, and the Druid priests were easily able to pick it up and take it up the steps to the platform. Our inside source informs us that there are actually 4 effigies used in the ceremony. One brought in on the back of the wagon, another that's used behind the trees, another that's brought across by the Grim Reaper to the steps of the idol, and still another effigy that is placed on a black altar before Moloch, the demon god, and burned.
Very interesting. They talk about the mock sacrifices and so forth publicly, that's there, but Jesse, you've heard rumors of things that happen behind closed doors and rooms. Can you maybe share something that you've heard or someone has told you in confidence?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that under that statue that there's a whole ritual ground underneath there, and it's common for those in the Brotherhood, and how do we know it's the Brotherhood in the first place? I encourage people to, explore the different symbols that you see in there. We see what looks like the genie lamp. That lamp represents the initiates of the flame, which is just another name for these individuals. In that book, it talks about that they worship Lucifer. Also calls, or they call themselves another name in there, the Order of Melchizedek. And that's not the true Order of Melchizedek. It's the fake order. And, part of this is that they don't want to get caught. They
Yeah.
make things a show, so they have a show above ground, but at the same time, there's stuff that's really happening below ground. They also will space it out, so they're doing things, usually for a longer period of time. It's not just 1 hour or things like that. You've got, these sacrifices, these rituals can go on all night long.
It's so sad when it comes to these rituals because they actually happen. And
Yeah.
I want to play a video clip of a movie where it's really well done. For those that know anything about rituals or magic, for those of you who are former occultists or occultists that always tune in, I'm going to play a clip here that's very key. I want you to watch this clip. It's a few minutes long. It's from a movie with Tom Cruise, and it's called Eyes Wide Shut. Just I'll get your feedback from this clip. So turn up your volume. It's very interesting. So watch to the end. Here it is. That was called Eyes Wide Shut. The synopsis to this movie is someone that sneaks in to a very elite circle for a very special party. The reason for the masks, one of them specifically, is so you don't know who's who because of the eliteness. There are politicians, there are lawyers, there are judges, those very high up. It's one of the reasons why they wear the mask. There's passwords and codes to know. And the director of this movie, his name was Stanley Kubrick. And apparently, Stanley Kubrick died before this movie was edited and released to the public. Coincidence, Jesse?
I don't think so, George.
So there was a edited or a extended version that was supposed to be released. Apparently, it was not released to the public. So the question is, what did Stanley Kubrick know that he was trying to put in this movie? If that may be. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, That's just us putting our thoughts out there. It could be anything. Maybe he just, who knows, ladies and gentlemen, what it could happen. But he did pass away before this movie was released and finished being edited. And it was about a secret group, a secret society, and a lot of sex magic was conducted there at that event. Now, Jesse, you saw the robes, the hoods,
Yep.
the music. What are your thoughts of that?
I mean, that's all symbolism. I think a lot of movies, they've been putting in actual scenes from real rituals, where they're showing what happens in those rituals and what life behind the scenes is. And, when I was in the occult, different robes, different colors, they could signify different positions, different forms of elemental magic that would be used. Again, you would use certain things to hide your identity. That's why the robes usually were long, they were thicker. It made it hard to distinguish the identifying, things that you would visually see about a person who was there. So, you're absolutely right when you said that, they use that to cover up who they are because they don't want, newbies or people who don't know them or who aren't, particularly a part of their specific circle to be able to identify them.
And of course, this could go a lot deeper. I mean, it could go in 30 different directions. You can't have me and Jesse sit here for 2 hours just to describe the mask. There's so many reasons. One of them specifically is when you are a master, for instance, when you're a master warlock. At one time, there's only 5 in the world, the most, 5 in the world. And when you become this master warlock, magician, you're allowed to pick your face, which is your manifestation of who you transform to be. So you're allowed to pick your face paint and paint it a certain way. So that is one way of transforming yourself. Some of these masks are demonic, and that could be you taking that persona of that particular entity that you've allowed into your life. There's many, many reasons for it, and it's a long-winded question, but the simple question is, if you have to wear a mask, then you shouldn't be participating in any type of ritual or meeting. Now, Jesse, I've gone to church and I don't remember wearing a mask. I remember during lockdown, they tried to ask me to put one on, and I said, no,
Right?
I will not. I'm not doing it. And I never did. And I fought with all of them. And when they tried to get me to do it, I won't come to church. That's it.
Right.
No tithing for you. But
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's, it represents rituals and what they do.
so it's a long one, but there's many reasons for the mask. It's not really important who makes the mask, really. I mean, it could be anyone, but the masks represent different things. There's 1,000 different answers we could give you on different reasons for wearing a mask, depending on the group or that secret society and so forth. Like I said, if you have to wear one, then you shouldn't be a part of anything.
Run the other way. That's our best advice yet, George. Just run fast. There we go.
There was a very famous man, Jesse, and he was the president of the United States. His name was John F. Kennedy, and he addressed the press on April 27, 1961. April 27, 1961. I'm going to play 2 minutes or so of his speech because I think it's important. And then after the speech, I'm going to get your feedback because in this speech, it's all there. I think anything you've ever wanted to know about anything, he sums up in just a few minutes. And again, I remind you, 1961. 1961.
He was dealing with them too.
Yes, he was. Here is John F. Kennedy's, I believe, final speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah,
I
that
am
was
asking
good.
your
A
help
lot.
to inform and tell the American people, all people. 1960, something there, 61, I believe, he gave this speech, Jesse, and everything is in it. Coven means, we know what that means.
Yep.
He
He
talked
talks
about
about a system, the well-oiled machine.
military, police, politics, food, everything. He talked about it back then, warned everybody. So God bless him. How interesting that people today, the youth, like to put up the pyramid and think it's cool. It's incredible. So on my end, I tell everybody, I thought I wanted to be one of these people. I thought I wanted to be in that circle. I thought I wanted what they had to offer. And it was the Lord God Almighty who opened up my eyes. And I am proud of that. I'm happy that I am no longer on that path. I have anything to do with it. And that I found Jesus Christ in my life. Do not be a part and do not have fear over these people because they still need your blessing. They need your permission. So I say no, Jesse. I give you no authority. I give you no permission. I live under God and his laws, and I give him thanks, praise, and glory. Jesse, thoughts on that last speech?
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. You know, we have to remove that willing consent and say to, you know, to the brotherhood, to those who are part of this secret society, that we do not give them permission, and we're not going to allow them to continue to do the evil and the wickedness that they have done for generations and for years. You know, it takes all of us standing together with one voice to, you know, end that. And how do we do that? We do that through the power of the blood, you know, Jesus Christ. And, you know, he says that by the blood and by the word of our testimony, we overcome the evil one. So don't forget that. You know, that's in the book of Revelations.
No fear, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they'll try to use. Lies, deceit. And they use the television, media, which is the god of illusion. Interesting. Media is now translated into media. And that's what they use to control the mind. So have no fear. Be strong. Be brave. Give no authority or no permission. Just say no and give up glory and thanks and praise to God Almighty. I think that's it for tonight, Jesse. Secret Societies.
Right.
I thank you all for watching. If people would like to learn more about Jesse's ministry, please share with everybody how they can follow you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can follow me on kingdomlivingwithjesse.com as well as illuminatethedarkness.com. You can also find me on Twitter under Czebotar Jessie and on patreon.com.
And that's it, right? That's
Well,
the one.
no, there's more. I mean,
There's more, but let's
we won't name it all tonight, George. We'll
No.
leave some
But-
for next week.
Of course. Now, Jesse, I have to say that there's so many lucky people here that are going to get to join us on Patreon coming up next, the after show.
Absolutely.
So right after this, we're going to do an after show, and it's an open table. It's a Q&A. You could sit there, discuss, talk, comment, ask questions, and we get into things. Sometimes we talk politics, Jesse, right? And it's a great after show, and we appreciate all our Patreon subscribers for being there, because without Patreon subscribers, we wouldn't be able to do this particular show here on YouTube. Some of you are beautiful people, Emily and a few others, I won't mention last names or anything, who send tips and try to keep this show alive. So I appreciate that. And a lot has to do with the Patreon members, because I said, hey, I'll just do exclusively this show and all this content only on Patreon. But a lot of the Patreon said, George, it's okay. We'll support, but keep it up on YouTube. So God bless all those Patreon members that support the Reveal Report. And if you'd like to join, the link is in the description. It's also right there. So join us. And Monday, we'll drop the information. It's going to be great. The Redemption Tour, Orlando, May 12th, May 13th. Jessie Czebotar, myself, George Iceman, and Gary Wayne. 2 days, the Reveal Report, weekend retreat. It's going to be incredible. We'll drop all that information on Monday. Ladies and gentlemen,
amazing.
It's going to be great. I thank you all for watching. We hope to see you on Patreon next for the after show. Remember to get outside, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D. Smile, laugh, raise your vibration. Appreciate everything God has given you. But most importantly, Jesse, we must give glory, grace, and praise to God Almighty. Thanks for watching, and good night.